Hello, this is Salika from Conversations in Color, and I'm here today with Dr. Janice Briggs, who is the EDI coordinator for the City and County of Eau Claire, and Sheng Elizabeth Lohr, who is the founder and host of the Social Exchange Project and is a mental health and substance abuse social worker, counselor for Eau Claire County. And we're talking about what an EDI coordinator does, what the city's vision for bridging divisions are, how we bridge divisions, and Nerf guns. We thank our sponsors today, the Pablo, University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, Converge Radio, and Shift, where they have really great coffee. So without further ado, join us in this conversation. So we always ask our old guard and our new guard, why are you still committed to Conversations in Color?
Oh, maybe you start.
Well, you're the old guard, I'm new.
All right, we can do that. Well, I spoke about this last time, but I'm committed to the mission of togetherness and having really tough conversations that are uncomfortable but meaningful, especially with people that I obviously personally respect, but just people that the community respects. So I'm in it for that reason.
Janice?
Yeah, so Conversations in Color, the first time I think we met, you mentioned it, and just intrigued by it. I've watched some of the videos, whether it's interracial friendship, different things that's happening, current events that's happening nationally and globally. And I think this is a platform for bringing us together as you think about inclusivity in the Eau Claire and surrounding community and giving people a voice, you know, and space to be your authentic self and brave and to discuss, as Sheng says, lean into the discomfort and use it as a learning moment.
Well, we have with you two of the leaders here in the community.
I don't know if I'd say I'm a leader.
Oh, the Social Exchange Project makes you a leader. You're stuck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Everybody watch Social Exchange podcast. I'm sure there's one coming
It's
up.
a very sad plug-in for that. Thank you.
I'm not the best plugger. But Dr. Briggs, we wanted to introduce you to the community and really say what you're doing and how you're helping us move towards that idea of a welcoming community and a community that's looking forward to the 21st century and not stuck in the divisions of the past.
Right. I really love my new community. My family and I moved up in June. I did not know the history of the position until I moved here. So I remember when Vicky reached out to me and she was saying, the media would like to talk to you. And so I was like, me? Because, you know, in academia, like, you know, the coordinators, normally at the bottom, they talk to the manager, the director, the vice president. So I had no idea the history of the position until I came here. And so I'm honored to be the first person in this role. And it's a split position between the city and the county. And when I got here, I wanted to do active listening. I wanted to tap into the rich organizational and institutional knowledge with my coworkers at the city, coworkers at the county, but then also of equal importance is getting out into the community to meet the movers and shakers, right? I met groups, I met individuals, just to get a feel from their lens, from their experiences, how they view the city or the county in terms of accessing our services, just that overall picture. And if there are barriers that they're experiencing and how this new role could help to be that conduit between the local government and or residents here. And then internally in both organizations, I was meeting with coworkers one-on-one I was meeting in department groups, teams. And so my entire summer was spent really just networking, understanding the lived experiences here, understanding the aspirations, the goals that my coworkers have for the community or for the organization. And so that gave me a basis to start. Just a small, because it's a big organization, but as many people as I could possibly meet. But I also used both organizations had existing EDI data, right? So how can we, if we have the data, how can we make these suggestions or recommendations actionable? So then I had another baseline there to start too. And so I have a JEDI team for the city and a JEDI team for the county, because it's two different organizations. So Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. And so there's a representative from all departments on each team. And so we've been meeting, Shaggy's on the team for the county. We've been meeting monthly. We have speakers come in, and there's always a learning moment. We're leaving, what new knowledge can you leave this meeting with that you didn't have before? And then hopefully JEDI members are ambassadors to their departments. So the latest thing that we're working on now is a strategic plan for the county and one for the city where equity work is concerned. How can we operationalize equity into everything that we do? So that's the latest thing that we're working on. It's in draft right now. But I gave supervisors and their department the entire month of November to meet with your team. Here are the 4 goals: or organizational culture, workforce development, community engagement, and continuous learning. And then you and your team see, how then do you see yourselves in this goal? What the work that you do, right? So I've gotten a lot of feedback from my coworkers, departments, that I'm going to be integrated into the document before I share it with County Administrator Schaaf or Interim City Manager Dave Solberg. But I was looking, and I'm in the process of writing an article for the newsletter for the county, kind of just to give a brief synopsis of the work that we have been doing so far. And I was looking at even the community engagement piece. It really, our organization is not in a bubble. We definitely need the community, even partnering with you, with Toward One Wisconsin. Last week I did Stand in the Light Memory Choir, that group, and I've been meeting with different groups of ask about different things. How can we start thinking about things from an equity lens? What does that mean? Right, so it's always a co-learning for me too, because I didn't know that even with dementia, African Americans, the data just showed that 64% higher than whites when it comes on to. So again, I use these opportunities, yes, to strengthen collaboration, establish collaborative work together, but also that learning piece I'm taking with me too. So I'm talking too much. I'll let Shen.
No, I'm absorbing all of this in.
I mean, I think the public-private partnership here is so important, and to have the groups, the community groups here is so important. How, I should say, can we get community groups to coordinate with you so that we're not competing for the same group, grants, so that we're not wasting resources against each other, so we maximize resources with each other? I mean, we've got the Chippewa Valley Equity Initiative, right, which already is helping in that regard. UB has the membership group, so we're beginning to see people will post in there so we know, and we're working on trying to get a calendar. But what is your vision for getting these community groups to work together? I mean, is it something like maybe we have a summit at some point where we put everybody in the room and figure out what people need? Or is it something where we align these groups? Because I think especially a lot of the majority groups don't understand that what helps marginalized people helps majority people as well. I mean, there's a lot of research that shows the inclusion pedagogy helps first generation white and second generation white as well. They benefit from it. It's just like anything we do for people with disabilities tends to help people who don't have disabilities as well. So how do you have a vision of how you want to get the community groups to work together?
I think the Chippewa Valley Transformation Project, I think that's their main goal, is to get these different entities together, both private and nonprofit organization together. But for me, from the lens where I'm sitting, I think we have to center community, and we need shared values, but also trust, right? Like, I can't just say, going to, for example, the Hmong community, not understanding not the community, and start to say, okay, we need to get this done, get that done. So really meeting people where they're at. For me, when I'm either the Hmong Mutual Association or Hmong Economic Development or the Black and Brown Power Women Coalition, it's understanding the Hmong culture, and for me, it's a lot of learning what's the best way to communicate with the group about our Hmong elders. And I think if we as local government, and I've been to meeting with Dave Solberg, interim city manager with the Black and Brown Women Power Coalition, County Administrator Schaaf and I have been there too. Chief Rokas. If we can bridge that gap between local government and these grassroots organizations, we can really do a lot of great work around setting up our community to thrive and flourish in the 21st century and beyond for generations yet to be born. But it takes that getting out of your four corners, right, and going out to the community and really listening, because they know their needs, right? And then how can we then leverage resources to come up with solutions? There's a lot of talks with the unhoused population, right? And so it's going to be meeting with Sojourner or Beacon. Is it Beacon?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, Beacon House.
Right, and just these different folks who are doing the work on a day-to-day basis, and then seeing, okay, what is the role of local government in all of this? So having those conversations. And so I think the key is, like, if you find that mover or shaker in these different organizations and invite them to have a conversation. I'd love to come to, your, whether it's Hmong Mutual Assistant Association, to have a dialogue. Just get to know you, and then that's what I've been doing, going into these spaces, saying who I am and my role, and I'd love to work together. Is there any common ground, or, just being transparent and being honest and not performative. I think, members.
I just want to say that that's exactly what you've done. Like, I met you, I think even before you officially moved here, I reached out to you, and we got together, but I think you had already done some of that work beforehand. What I will say is a lot of this is relationship building and trust and rapport building, and I feel like you've done just that. You didn't come in saying, this is my plan for everyone. You came in saying, I want to learn and know what you're already working on and what's already in existence, and how can I work together on being that liaison between all these organizations and movements and initiatives. And so I just want to say that you've come in as a sponge in a lot of ways, in a good way. A lot of it has been you just absorbing all of this information and then strategically putting it into plan and action. I've seen that in you.
Well, thank you. Way to go, friend.
We're actually friends outside of that.
Is there a way to bring the neighborhood associations in here? Because, one of the problems that we have as a country, it's not just an Eau Claire problem, is a problem of trust. And Eau Claire,
that's in every community, right? That's usually the issue, is you don't trust, you don't know, fear of the unknown.
Well, you look at Eau Claire, and we're all from bigger cities. But people here get very invested in the north side, west side, south side thing, as if there's really that much of a difference. I'm sorry. And I live on the west side, and there are people oh, how can you do that? It's really? Have you lived in the ghetto? This is not ghetto. Eau Claire does not have a ghetto. I drove my mom around town, and she said, there's no ghetto here. And I said, well, they think that one area is. And she's like, it's clean, Salika. The houses are in good repair. I haven't seen, the antics you will get in South Central or the Neutral Zone in New Orleans, or some of the other places that I've lived in. But I think people here who have never been outside of Eau Claire don't get that. So they have a lot of class distrust, as well as race and political distrust. The political distrust really is maximization of the other two distrusts. So I know that the city is working on an EDI plan. Are we thinking of, in that plan, how to build trust of things, maybe like doing some training for the public in de-escalation, or maybe in how to behave in public?
I think I need that one.
I don't know. I've been to the mall. My daughter has gone to high school dances are out here. There's many people who could use those lessons.
Yeah, I think with organizational culture, we're thinking about the leadership, the vision. That's what's going to drive the strategy. So yeah, we need trust, internally with our coworkers, and so yes, trust will be woven throughout everything. There's that community engagement goal that I talked about, but then that fourth goal of learning, continuous learning,
Even for us, right? Who's doing this work?
Right, and then bringing in the presenters, whether with lived experiences or academic experiences, to come and help develop our internal capacity. So that's where that learning piece is going to come in, and I hope to tap into the rich knowledge and resources here in our community to facilitate some of these dialogue, facilitate some of these discussions in a space that honors the dignity of myself, my coworkers. Again, there's going to be different viewpoints. But
I do want to say, I remember you saying something like, this is a safe place and a brave place. I don't know if you can reiterate that.
Yeah,
because you created that right away, even in our learning groups on the task force. You laid out these are kind of like facilitator roles and responsibilities, but really expectations, like this is a safe and brave place. I want everyone to be able to come in and have this authentic point of view on really what you're feeling, what you're really experiencing, because otherwise the work really isn't real work.
Right. I mean, it's it sounds elementary, but we have our Jedi principles, right, for our task force, and it's just that sheer reminder about honoring the human dignity.
And that's part of that rapport building. Honestly, it is. Yeah.
And I can see how even virtually, we've been meeting virtually, how our bond with each other is growing. Even name your favorite candy and why. I mean, it's
we love them icebreakers. We do all those.
But it's really that, Salika. It's understanding when we're going into these spaces, what might be safe for me might not be psychologically safe for you. Just understanding that. So we're gonna need to have a brave space. And if you're uncomfortable, it's okay to take a step back. Because people have different kind of traumas, and there's different topics that can, you don't want to unintentionally
set triggers and things.
Right. And that's right up your alley, so you can speak to that.
Triggers are on my alley.
Social work.
But it's trauma informed, right? That's essentially what it is.
Yeah.
It's trauma informed care and communication and understanding that piece to things too. But yeah.
Right. Yeah. We just had city supervisor training. And so I had Brianna and Mackenzie from the county talk about trauma-informed care in the workplace and what does that look like, and from a supervisor lens and stuff. And it was interesting that when I knew the topic that we were talking about, but I still wanted to do my own little research. And you look up about the adverse environment effects and conditions, and they talk about poverty, racism, discrimination, and all of that. We bring our individual identities to work, and so. Just being in spaces where your supervisor can be empathetic and see, or just have that trust. And I noticed, Dr. Ducksworth is a little slow today, or the project timeline or whatnot, kind of like what's going on, but without having that.
What she means is individualized experiences.
Yeah.
Every unique individual out there.
But I might be a little slow today.
No, but
it might be a problem.
You might never. No, like if you're
She
always
seems distracted,
right?
or something,
If
something's
you're always,
off.
right?
Yeah.
If you're always on time with projects and stuff, and it's like if you don't have that basic relationship with your supervisor, or if they're not even in tune with that, it's kind of like you just get slipped through the crack. It's like just a conversation. I notice. Is there anything I can help? Do you need? You might be taking care of a loved one at home. I mean, COVID has changed everything. And so you never know what people are dealing with. And so not assuming, but having honest conversation with your team, getting to know your team.
Do you find that you have to help people learn how to speak to each other without, I could say the word triggering. I don't want to use the word triggering, but I want to use the words without making people feel attacked. I'm thinking in the Gottman terminology of that when people feel attacked, either they turtle or they attack back.
They get defensive.
Yeah.
They get really defensive. Yeah.
So do you find you have to teach people how to not be defensive, especially when you're out here, maybe less with the city and the county, or I could be wrong, or more maybe out in the community, especially with people who already think, well, I'm doing more than enough. I don't need to learn anything.
I don't think I've been
We don't have those people at all.
Oh, we have none of those here in Eau Claire.
I think it just goes back to relationship building too, like being able to communicate effectively and having empathy for that person and really understanding where that person's, I guess, perspective and lens comes from, and meeting them where they're at. I think that's a huge part of it first. And then, I do think effective communication skills helps a lot. And then on the other side, not always acting or feeling that somebody's attacking you, but being able to understand maybe perhaps where they're coming from, so you can have a meaningful dialogue and effective communication in that too. So,
if we were to talk about what Eau Claire needs, in terms of, we have viewers out there who want to volunteer, we have viewers out there who want to be involved in this work, how do they become involved in the work?
This work is broad. I mean, it's a big, broad.
I think just figuring out what you're good at
was just about
naturally,
to say
right?
that.
Like
find
what are
out
you
which-
interested in? Taking
Right.
inventory of yourself. Like, what are you interested in doing? Whether it's, let's say you're really passionate about helping homelessness in this area, looking at what initiatives are already in place for helping people who are struggling, especially right now during the season with winter.
Yeah.
How do you contribute to that? Whether it's volunteering or contributing financially or whatever it is, whatever that looks like for you should be individualized as well. So like if you are interested in volunteering and doing some work in the community, I don't think, I always kind of think of social activism looks very unique for everyone. Some people run for local government and they're able to do a lot more in that position because they have the energy and they're willing to commit to that. And then some people just volunteer once a month doing whatever it is that fits their schedule. And so I think it really just comes down to what are you interested in doing, and what are you passionate about, and what are you able to commit to.
Yeah, I agree. We have the community table and they provide meal 7 days a week for, so if that's what you're passionate about, I think there's a lot of opportunities here in our community to really give back and still feel that sense of fulfillment.
I think even as far as looking for opportunities, the Chippewa Valley Equality Initiative, they have volunteering opportunities and ways you can get involved in the community too. I really like that. Jennifer Kiko, who started that, I think with you, or David Carlson maybe, a couple people too that started with that. And that's part of the intention with that platform is, you have materials that you can learn about different things, whether it's race, LGBTQ community, different topics there for adults and children. And then there's also an opportunity where you can learn about ways you can get back to your community if that's what you choose to do. Yeah.
Even like the faith community, there's so many, it's a broad faith-based groups here in the community. Whether it's the schools, if you want to help with our future generation and getting into the school system, there's a process, of course, that you have to go through. There's opportunities there to help. And so, again, just find out what you're passionate about. And if you want to be on boards, commissions for the city or the county, there's a form that you get, the resource bank, you just fill it out.
We do have the local election coming up, so anybody who's interested in any of the vacant positions there.
So, I think as local government, we want to be representative of our diverse communities. and just making sure that we have access, for community, whether probably their first language is not English. Do we have interpreter services? And, so I think there's a lot of ways to just get involved and reach out, but you gotta sometimes take that first initiative, in seeking out opportunities. As Shan just said.
Agreed.
Well, I mean, the Uniting Bridges membership group, people will put stuff in there all the time. Shane, you'll have people on the social exchange. Yeah, there's another plug for social exchange.
Thank you.
Watch the podcast, watch the podcast, watch the podcast.
But going back to Uniting Bridges, it's a nonprofit that you started, that we all are a part of, that does a lot of really great work, yes?
Yeah,
I mean,
United Bridges is the umbrella of all the other.
Well, we umbrella and try to bring people together, and we try to, when people come looking, the city is pushing them to us. So if we can make sure that we don't have a bunch of groups all trying to do the exact same thing, because we have problems here. And one of the issues that we saw was one person gets here and they don't know where anything is, so they decide nothing's here and they decide to start a one-person group. And then we get all these one-people groups that can't get very much done, while the groups that are actually there and have started amassing the resources and getting the experience can't find volunteers. So trying to get people to do that has been an adventure. And of course, people want to work at the programs and everything. It's hard to find the people who want to do compliance for organizations or the bookkeeping or that kind of stuff. But I think what I have been struck with lately is that I'm doing a lot of mediating. I find myself doing a lot of mediating, not just between groups, but between people. I know that some of my, I'm saying the word some, not all, not even majority, some. So nobody at work come and jump me. Some. Very loud.
Please nobody jump, Dr. Salika.
Please
You'll have
don't.
a problem with me too if that happens.
This is why I keep the Nerf guns in my office. If they come after me, the battery-operated Nerf guns are ready.
Okay.
But there's a few very loud individuals who feel that marginalized people are getting too much attention and who don't understand why we have to learn these things. Why can't they just assimilate? Why can't we just treat everybody the exact same way? And in part, they were taught from the 1970s on that assimilation and colorblindness was the way. So when you're dealing with that out in the community, what tactics do you use? I mean, how do you help them to see that, if they're colorblind and they look at me and don't see my skin color, they will walk me right into a clan bar and I'll get jumped. Or they'll send me someplace where I shouldn't be.
Right.
And I'll either have to hurt someone or get hurt. We don't want that.
We want zero violence.
We want zero
That's our goal today and every day.
for Christmas. Zero violence for Christmas.
Right. But I mean, I think that's a lot of the principles that Jedi is working on, right? Is that equity and inclusion does look very differently, right? You can't treat everybody the same way, and I don't know if you want to elaborate more on that, but you can't treat everybody the same way. You gotta, there's uniqueness in individuals and things like that. Not everybody starts at the same place. So.
What else do I have to add?
I'm sorry. But it's true. That is really the work we're doing, right? That's really
You're right. And I also think, perspective, right? So when I go into the rural community, like the rural part of Eau Claire to meet with our rural partners, you got to speak their language in terms of you're talking about farming, you're talking about agriculture. You talk. So when you're talking about equity, we're talking about the soil that you're going to use for this or testing, or you just weave equity in it, right? You just weave equity in it. I'm not going out there to talk about race. I'm not going out there to talk about gender. We're talking about diversity in agriculture, and access, or how easy it is for them to access services of the county. Broadband is an issue. So if they're out in the county and you need to we can't go paperless because
Right.
half of the folks don't have internet. So, so again, it's kind of like just being strategic and speak their language.
And talk about effectiveness.
Right.
And how it benefits and how they
Yeah,
connect with
yeah,
this.
And then you just see
larger
people
mission.
open up, and because hey, they're passionate about agriculture, they're passionate about, I want access, I want to be able to access, internet here. What's going on? They can talk about the broadband initiatives that's in place, and that's when you start to build trust, and it's kind of like
It's relationship building.
Yeah.
It really is.
I've been here, oh my God, since 1993. So I've had the benefit of building some of these relationships, and I've had to, and I've had some people approach me, and I've had to tell them that, equality for me and the people I work with does not mean that we are going to get revenge, nor are we going to be obnoxious and bullies. But I think there's a real fear on the part of some people that is what's going to happen. And I found myself having to do a lot of calming that down, which then kind of makes my blood pressure go up. So what do you do to help you stay calm and centered?
For me, it's my faith, and again, that for me. I'm just talking about for me is my faith, and I believe in God, and I just I pray, and I just even when I was coming here, I say, God, I don't know what I'm going to say, but I trust you, and just keep it just my faith. But I think this buzzword of intersectionality, right? And Shen talked about the uniqueness that we all bring. If we look at it that way, where we all at some point have some kind of marginalized identity. So, I'm a Black woman, I'm an immigrant, I have an accent, and even though I have a terminal degree, some of these might exclude me from certain groups, might exclude me from certain cultures, whether, it's we don't want somebody with all these credentials. We want somebody with lived experience, Then, then some of these identities that I have might give me privilege, as opposed to, maybe there's a conference and they need somebody with a master's degree.
Yeah, or better
to speak.
access to certain group of people,
Right. So if we look at it from that way, to understand that we're complex human beings, we're unique, we're beautiful, we all have different lived experiences, and some parts of our identities might have us being included in some spaces and might be excluded in some spaces. I find having that discussion, folks are willing to engage in it, and kind of, even I remember many moons ago, I had a discussion with a group, and it was all white group, and we're talking about equity, we're talking about diversity, and when we looked at privilege and marginalized identities, and I mentioned divorce or married, right? And so when somebody said, when I was married, I felt like I was accepted in a certain group, and once I got divorced, it was like, oh, I'm the scorned one. And so then it started to be real for that person. Like, wow, I was never thinking about privilege and marginalization that way before.
And you can apply that then. Yeah.
Well, here in Eau Claire, it's not just that this is a hard place for people who are married. It's a hard place for people who are single, who are not in college. It's a hard place for our people who may have, they may be ex-incarcerated, especially before marijuana became a ticketable offense, when it was a serious offense or something like that. And I think that we don't always think about how hard of a place this can be for those people, even though they're white. And
that speaks a lot to the intersectionality
Right.
piece that you're talking about. I do want to answer a part. I don't remember exactly what the question is, but I do think a huge part of this process is. So I think your question was how do you stay calm and centered. I would say, for me, it's really taking inventory of yourself and really, really building that really strong sense of self. So areas that you feel are your natural strengths, things that you're really proud of, and obviously is a part of your self-esteem. And then the other areas where you're like, I still have a lot of growth areas and areas of improvement that I could still make, and then continue to work on those areas. And I think once you have that, I'm not saying that I do, I'm still working on it, but I feel like you have a better sense of who you are. And when somebody's shouting at you and saying things, actually, I did spend a lot of time talking to somebody who was attacking my platform and me as a social worker and saying all these like not very kind things. And I spent a lot of time with this person. A lot of people said, you shouldn't have done that. It's a waste of time, it's a waste of energy. But I will say it was a good investment. I had energy, so it was a good investment in this, because at the end of it, showing him just a lot of compassion and him saying all these really negative things about me when he didn't even know who I was, I kind of proved him wrong. Like I spent a lot of time actively listening and understanding where that anger was coming from. And, had I not really done that work on myself, I would have been like angry and meeting him where he was at and being upset and spending all this extra energy at his level of frustration and all those negative feelings, when I was really calm because I understood who I was. So anything you were saying about me as a social worker, anything you were saying about me as a liberal, even though that wasn't what I identified as, but all these different things that he chose to label me as, a little bit racial, a little bit sexist as well. It kind of was unwavering to me in the way I saw myself, I guess, in many ways. And so that's kind of how I deal with a lot of things. It doesn't always work, okay? It doesn't always work. I'm not always cool and collective. But for me in that particular situation, it worked. And it ended up being that we actually had a lot more in common, just part of what I believe people should work more on is commonality versus differences, And we ended up, we're not best friends or anything, me and this individual, but we definitely have come to a place where he said to me, he's like, I actually really respect you. And I was like, thank you. It's very kind of you. And I'm not saying that works for everyone. I'm not trying to tell everybody to go out there and find an enemy or somebody on the opposing side and become best friends and invest all this time, because it doesn't always work. But for me, that's just an example, I guess, of how I try to navigate through the world, I guess, and keep my cool, although it doesn't always work. Lots of friends and family say I lose my cool often, but yeah, that's kind of how I would say it.
Y'all have such calm energy. I mean,
that's only time we're on camera.
But I think what Shang says, and talking about re-entry into our community for members who might not have that disposition, might not have, how do we
build them up?
How do we, empower them and give them the tools and the resources?
You humanize them, first of all, is the first thing you should do. Yeah.
To have a smooth transition back into our communities, and understanding that we appreciate and respect the human dignity, right? What you bring into our community and what they need. So I think Expo, we adapt. A lot of different organizations in the communities doing, I think, just that. So again.
Well, yeah, I think that for people who are ex-incarcerated, or for people who have mental health issues, or for people who are just stressed by the economic issues we have right now, or the mental health strains of the time we have right now, trying to figure out how to keep them calm and keep ourselves calm is, and I know that's hard for me. Thus the Nerf guns, but I think to help the community begin to think about how do we re-entry people who have been incarcerated, or how do we help people who do have mental health challenges is probably one of the biggest things we have to do. When especially with the drug issues we have in this community. And people get so invested into their fear. And I think that's where I was going with the calm, because I know I try to be calm. I say I'm a practicing Catholic. I'm not very good at it. But, this idea that we all have to stay disciplined and not just jump to scream at somebody who may be screaming at us is a hard one for people to begin to think about. And when is it appropriate to say call the police? When is it appropriate to call a social worker? When is it above our pay grade? That seems to be something people are struggling with, but that you're also dealing with through the city's EDI plan especially for the mental health part.
Right. I think it goes back. Go ahead.
Which one was that?
Oh, that's mine. It's telling me that my daughter needs to read.
Oh no,
She
that's
reads
all
at
right.
7 every night.
I'm
Do you want
sorry.
to grab
Yeah, it's in my handbag. You can just press stop. I apologize.
I was thinking like
That's
something.
Yeah,
okay.
in my handbag. Yeah. So it's just
That's
just-
okay.
How dare you go through her purse?
No, sorry.
Yeah, you just press the stop. If you highlight it, it says stop.
Oh, yeah.
My husband will not.
No,
go
he's
through
gonna
my
start
purse.
again.
Snooze day.
No, yeah, you're gonna start again. It's okay.
Oh, no, here. I'm just going to give this to you.
Because I was going to say, my
You got
husband won't go
bloopers
in my
now.
purse.
You got bloopers footage.
My daughter reads at 7 every night.
See, my
So-
daughter reads, but none of it is good. She's reading like graphic novels and stuff she's not supposed to be reading, but that's a whole different day's story.
Yeah.
Or watching TikTok
Yeah.
videos, probably, as we say.
Right. with the mental health piece, we have the new co-responder that was hired to work with their housing,
With
the
law
police,
enforcement.
right? Yeah, police department. So, and she's a trained social worker. So she'll go out on calls.
And she's also worked with crisis
Right,
for a very
crisis,
long
right.
time too.
Crisis, trauma, etc. And based on the conversation that I was a part of a panel with her last week for the Youth Leadership Eau Claire Government and Law Day, and she's been pretty successful so far, and tracking her data to show at the probably at end of, I'm not sure when she'll report the impact of her role, and I had a conference presentation with coworker Captain Corey Shalinsky that talked about equity from the sheriff's standpoint, and with mental health and the calls and mental health with his team, and at the core of it all is safety, right? They don't know when they go out into the community who's going to be there, and so, but there's some really intentional effort from both organizations, the city and the county, with continuous learning, with training, and making sure that equity, inclusivity is woven into some of the things that they're doing, and maybe sometime you should probably have Chief Rokas on Conversation in Color, because he can talk to this work, and the sheriff. But I'm just saying, just based on the conversations that I've had and the work that we've been doing together, and the direction where the city and the county want to go, where this work is concerned, it's operationalize equity into every nook and cranny of the organization. Is it going to happen overnight? No, but we're making. This is the first step, right? And again, a lot of these different action items in the strategic plan, it's big and bold, and it will take time. So some short term, some medium term, some long term goal, and of course the community engagement piece. How are we listening to and serving our community? So
We will get Chief Rokas again. He's already asked when we're coming back.
Oh, okay.
He's been here before.
okay, okay.
He knows he won't get attacked.
I will say
We're
I
pretty safe.
did attend the Toward One Wisconsin conference, and I attended the future of policing, and I really was impacted in a very positive way with that one. But he did speak a lot about that new position and how mental health is a huge part of their goal or focus in policing. So
We really have a progressive police department here, and Menominee is also, and Altoona, and they're beginning to have an impact statewide. But I think, in part, our problem here is the problem of stereotypes, in that we need for our marginalized community to be able to see the police, and the police to see our marginalized community and know who are our people and who are the people who come and prey on us. Okay. And we need them to be well trained. I think some of the bigger problems for me is that as I'm traveling the state, I don't always know which police department I'm dealing with. And that creates a whole lot.
And aren't you a part of the
nervousness.
Police and Fire Commission?
I'm on the Police and Fire Commission here,
Oh, right.
but not in Milwaukee.
Right.
Not anywhere between here and Milwaukee or Madison. So, it becomes somewhat fraught there. But I think that's a lot of the thing here in Eau Claire is the issue of stereotypes and people who just, they haven't been around a lot of marginalized peoples. So they have these stereotypes and they don't realize that they have nothing to fear. And there are people who professionally gin up the fear, you know, for profit and for fun or just to see the world burn. So a lot of what you two are doing is lowering that fear to try to help us. But there's a lot of burnout in the community. So I'm going to come back to the calm and say, how do you avoid burnout? What do you focus on to avoid burning out? And especially in social work, burnout is easy to do.
I honestly think it's just setting boundaries for yourself, focusing on your energy, understanding what you can and cannot do. Like, for instance, we can't change, you know, individuals who are unwilling to see another person's perspective. You simply can't. So really maybe that's not the individual or the group of people or organization even that you want to spend your energy on. You're really focusing on the people who are there, willing to learn, willing to show up, and willing to understand and be a little bit uncomfortable. I think that's kind of how I view things, and all the different hats and things that I wear in my community. That's really what I try to do, is focus on my energy. What am I, again, taking inventory, what am I interested in? How do I want to contribute? What do I like and what am I good at? And then understanding boundaries. Like, you know, some days are harder than others. Today was a very hard day for me, for instance, and understanding that, you know what, you got to just, you know, when you're done with work, you got to just let it be, because you can't solve it yet tonight. And you got to, you know, you just have to understand what you can and cannot do. That's how I try. I mean, it doesn't always work either. I can speak all this really great things, but sometimes I have burnout, and then understanding self-care once you get to that point. So.
Yeah, for me, you touch on so many great points. It's finding that balance. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a friend, you know what I mean? I am an employee. And so trying to find, how do I balance it? I have two little ones and they grow up so fast. I don't want to miss anything. And they're, when I met with Group Health Cooperative, you're supposed to meet with, and you're supposed to have these goals. And so one of my goals was to drink more water, because I don't drink water. And another goal was to kind of take some time for self-care. Like, instead of going, when do you stop and take a break, understanding that you're not a machine, right?
Like replenishing that energy, whatever that self-care looks like too. Yeah. I'm
not sure if I'm going to get an A when we meet on that, because I still keep going, and I couldn't tell that.
We are not going to look at MyFitnessPal. We are not going to look at any of that stuff. There is water in my house, but I also think there's 2 giant bags of Ruffles and some Cheetos and other stuff that should not be there.
But the metrics look differently for everyone, right? Yours could be water or something. Mine could be something else, like lack of exercise. Or, you know what I mean?
I just had, I know I have 2 professional mentors. My first time having mentors. I'm really thankful for them and them helping me to balance, and I'm learning from them, and, you know, setting goals for the next time we meet. And so, you know, so again, one of the things I'm learning to space out my meetings, you know, and make sure that I have some office time and time to do different things, you know, not just meet, and then the day's done. What did I do? All meetings, you know, so just balancing out. And I am so thankful for my mentors. You know yourself. Thank you so much. So that I've done that, and I'm just really thankful. But you're right, you know, burnout is real, and especially if you have employees who are from the marginalized identities, whether LGBT, women, veterans, the BIPOC community, deaf and hard of hearing community, etc., and you manage expectations of them, because when you keep asking them to do more and more and more, yes, burnout can be real.
Well, there is a tendency to ask our marginalized peoples to do everything. You are on every panel. You are on every pamphlet. You know, and maybe to moderate those ideas, you know, moderate that, and maybe have some other people learn how to do it.
Train the trainer?
Trained trainer, but maybe, I mean, part of it is I think people are so hard on marginalized groups, including ex-incarcerated, because we are too hard on ourselves. And we're trying to force them to do all the things that we can't do.
Like you're almost looking to them to teach you and educate you so you can learn from them, but really a lot of the work you can do separately as well.
Yeah.
So.
And we all need to learn that. I mean, I work with the Hmong community as well, and I have a lot of ties to the indigenous community here and some to the Latin community, and I have to learn. But I also sometimes have to mediate because we have some people in all of these communities who can be they're very hurt. And hurt people hurt other people, so they don't trust anybody but their group. And I'm finding that is one of the biggest challenges that I'm having now. Trying to help people work with grace across these groups when they really want to focus just on their own. All this balkanization doesn't help us. But how do you speak to someone else who is also marginalized, but is so far within that, I find I have to be very gentle when sometimes I just want to shake them. Wake up, behave. No violence for Christmas. No violence for Christmas. We're working on that.
Episode. But I do think a part of that is, I say it all the time, hurt people, hurt others, heal people, heal others. And so part of the work, you can't help somebody heal themselves, but a part of it is like you heal yourself. And then you identify with people in those marginalized groups. I'm from multiple marginalized groups, and finding that person who has done that work and working with them. That's maybe a strategy that I would kind of look at, because if you are working with people who are unwilling to see where you're coming from, I don't really think that work's going to be productive, to be honest. And so I think all that I can say is do the work on yourself,
And trying to control ourselves, or even recognizing our roles in the mess, I think is one of the hardest things for us to do. I know I have to look at myself very hard when something goes sideways and say, okay, what else could I have done? Was there anything else I could have done? And when I'm feeling the impulse to excuse myself, to push that away, unfortunately that often comes with a bag of Cheetos.
We're not sponsored at all by Cheetos.
We're not sponsored by Cheetos. And Coke Zero is not my other sponsor. Shift is our sponsor.
Right. Thank you.
But I think when people look up to you as a role model, and they look up to you too as role models, it can sometimes be a little stressful. Me, I'm not a role model. I tell them that. If I am the adult in the room, y'all are all in trouble. Really, don't look to me for that. But it is a little hard. But I mean, it's good to know that you're having an influence, isn't it?
I will say I am influenced by you. You're somebody to me. I've said this so many times. I look up to you, actually. So you are not just a leader to me, but you're a leader in our community. So I do just have to say that quick.
And I agree, because when I was doing, meeting with individuals and group, Dr.
Everyone
Duxworth,
always.
Yes.
Dr. Slika Duxworth Fountain, always.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. But you two are leaders, and people are looking up to you now, and there's so many expectations, but you're meeting them, so that's good. And they're looking up to you, especially for your work at the county and for the podcast.
Honestly, I just feel like we talked about this too the last time I was here. I think Dr. Roderick Jones and Ed had talked about like celebrityism and having that expectation. To me, it's really just staying true to who you are. You can't really deviate too much from who you are. You can't speak for a whole group of people. But if you're doing, work that you're proud of, that's all you can really do,
And I think that's all we can really do.
Yeah.
It does, though. It's good to have good people with us.
Yes.
Surrounding yourself with the right people is also key.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't do this work alone. My mom, may her soul rest in peace, she's always said it takes a village and no man is an island. And this work, to really position our community to be at the forefront of what's coming, the demographic change, the conflicts, you name it. It's going to take all of us working together, leveraging our resources, respecting different viewpoints in moving our community forward.
It goes back to rapport and rapport building, trust building, relationship building. That's all you can do.
And we have come full circle. And it is time to wrap up. So very grateful that y'all are here. Always, always so happy to be with y'all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
I love you.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.
I love you both.
We love you. Yeah, of course.